The planet Arcturus IX stretched beneath the observation deck like a world painted in shades of deep green and glowing blue. Its forests shimmered with bioluminescent plants, and rivers of liquid silver snaked through jagged mountains. Humanity had landed here a few months ago, establishing a small research colony, and already the scientists had discovered creatures unlike any they had ever seen. Yet none of these discoveries compared to Nissa, the humanoid being whose very existence challenged every known law of biology. Elias Kane stood at the edge of the observation window, eyes narrowed as he watched her move through the containment field. Nissa's form was graceful, almost fragile, but her presence radiated a quiet danger that made even the most seasoned researchers step back. She looked like a human, yet there was something otherworldly in her every motion. Her skin shimmered faintly under the lights of the containment area, and her eyes, a luminous shade of silver, scanned her surroundings with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. No one could approach her directly. Her touch emitted a bioelectric pulse strong enough to stop a human heart instantly. This was not a minor threat. Every attempt to interact without protection had ended in disaster. Many of the researchers had tried to feed her, to study her behavior, or simply to get close for observation. None had succeeded. Each attempt ended with a scientist jolted back in terror, some unconscious, some dead. Humanity had never encountered a life form quite like this. Elias felt a tension in his chest that had been growing since the first encounter. He had seen the logs, heard the reports, and read the warnings countless times, yet standing here now, he understood that Nissa was not just a danger. She was also a mystery that demanded understanding. The scientists at the colony called her a hazard, an anomaly, even a weapon in waiting. But Elias saw more. He saw intelligence in something that resembled emotion. The alarm blared suddenly, breaking the silence of the observation deck. Red lights flashed as a warning signal echoed through the control room. Containment field unstable, a voice called out from the communications panel. We have a breach risk. Lena Morales, the lead xenobiologist, looked pale but focused. It's her, she said, her voice trembling slightly. She's panicking. The field is overloading. If the field collapses while she's inside, she could be hurt, or worse, she could die. And if that happens, we lose the only chance to study her safely. We have no other choice. Elias stopped at the small storage unit where they kept the experimental exosuits designed to protect against bioelectric shocks. The suits were untested for her level of energy output, but they were humanity's best chance. Elias suited up quickly, the material cold and stiff against his skin. It hummed faintly as the energy shield activated, forming a faint glow around his body. He tested the gloves, pressing his fingers together, then letting the sensors read the current. All systems green. This is it, he said under his breath. The door to the containment chamber slid open with a hiss. Nissa froze in place immediately, sensing movement. Her eyes widened as they locked onto him. She took a cautious step backward, but the pulse that had once rippled around her fingertips now seemed to soften in his presence. Elias froze as well, letting her make the first move. Slowly, she tilted her head as if studying him, measuring him. Elias raised his hand slightly, palms open, in a gesture of non-aggression. I'm not here to hurt you, he said softly, knowing she might not understand the words but hoping she would feel the intention. She hesitated, then in a surprising display of trust, she allowed him to approach. Elias' heart pounded in his chest, every nerve alert to the possibility of sudden death. He could feel the faint electric hum around her, a living force that could end his life in an instant. Yet she did not strike. Carefully, Elias extended his hand toward her. His gloved fingers brushed against the edge of her arm, and he felt a small vibration, not enough to penetrate the suit fully, but enough to confirm her energy flow. Nissa flinched but did not pull away. Instead, her silver eyes searched his face, studying him as though trying to understand why a human would risk everything to hold her. The team watched in awe and terror from the monitoring station. Lena whispered, I don't believe it. He's actually doing it. Every movement was deliberate, careful, as if choreographing a dance where a single misstep could be fatal. He spoke softly, not words but sounds, tones meant to convey calm. Nissa responded with slight movements, leaning into his presence, letting him guide her. For the first time, humanity had come closer to understanding her. Not through instruments, not through force, but through patience and courage. Elias realized that humans had something unique in their approach to life: empathy, intuition, the ability to take calculated risks for a greater purpose. Suddenly, the chamber shuddered. The containment field flickered violently. Alarms screamed. Nissa's panic returned, her energy pulse intensifying around her. Elias tightened his hold, grounding himself and trying to channel calm. He could feel the energy brushing against the suit, a reminder that this was still dangerous. Yet he did not release her. "Steady," he muttered, more to himself than to her. "You're safe, you're safe." The pulse around her began to fade, responding to his steadiness. Elias smiled faintly, relief flooding him, but he did not relax. The danger was not over. Not yet. He guided her back to a reinforced corner of the chamber where the energy readings were lower and the field was stronger. Slowly, she allowed herself to settle. Elias crouched slightly, keeping his hands near her but not touching unnecessarily. He could feel the energy still vibrating through the suit, but it was manageable now. The team's relief was audible over the comm system. "Containment stable," Lena said, voice shaking. You actually did it." "We did it," he corrected. Humanity, he realized, had done it, not just him. Through teamwork, intelligence, and courage, they had reached what others had thought impossible. Nissa turned her head slightly, her eyes meeting his again. There was a flicker of understanding there, a silent acknowledgement of trust. Elias did not know how to interpret it fully, but he understood enough. She recognized the difference between a human driven by curiosity and fear and a human who could act with purpose and care. That night, as the colony settled into its usual rhythm of research and maintenance, Elias stayed in the observation deck, watching Nissa through the reinforced glass. He thought about what they had learned today, not just about her, but about themselves. Humanity's strength was not in brute force, nor in technology alone. It was in their ability to act thoughtfully, to take risks when necessary, and to find ways to connect where others might see only danger. Nissa moved slowly within her containment area, her gaze occasionally lifting to the sky, to the distant stars beyond the dome. Elias imagined what she might be thinking, how strange the humans must seem to her, so fragile yet so determined. And he knew that the real journey was only beginning. The planet Arcturus IX was full of mysteries, and Nissa was only one of them. But if humans could approach her, face danger with care, and earn a measure of trust, then perhaps they could survive here, thrive here, and leave a mark that no other species could. For now, though, it was enough to know that the impossible had been achieved. Elias had held her. No one else had. And in that act, humanity had proven once again that courage and intellect, when combined, could overcome even the deadliest challenges. Outside, the silver rivers glowed softly under the twin moons, reflecting a world full of promise. And within the chamber, Nissa watched the humans with quiet curiosity, her lethal pulse dormant for the first time in months. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, and perhaps new dangers. But for tonight, humanity had won a small victory, a victory not of weapons but of heart and mind. And that was enough to inspire hope. The morning sun filtered through the thick, transparent dome of the Arcturus IX colony, casting long shadows over the research center. Inside, the air hummed with activity. Scientists, engineers, and security personnel moved quickly from room to room, checking equipment and reviewing data. But at the heart of the colony, the focus remained on Nissa. Elias Kane stood in the containment chamber again, his exosuit fully charged and ready. After the previous day's events, the team had worked tirelessly to reinforce safety protocols, adjust the containment field, and monitor Nissa's energy patterns. Nothing, however, could replace the need for careful observation. Nissa remained unpredictable, yet her trust in Elias had grown, however slightly. She moved slowly, her silver eyes following him as he adjusted the sensors in the corner of the chamber. Each movement was deliberate, cautious, but there was a hint of curiosity in the way she tilted her head, watching his hands as they calibrated the instruments. Elias could feel a subtle energy in the air, different from the lethal pulse she had emitted before. It was as if she was testing him, measuring whether humans could understand her without harming her. Dr. Lena Morales approached, her tablet full of data she had been analyzing overnight. "Her energy fluctuations are stabilizing," she said quietly, almost in awe. "It's like she's learning to control it, or maybe she trusts you enough not to use it." "Trust is the key," he said. "If we can maintain that, we can study her safely, but we have to be careful. One mistake could undo everything." Not words that she could understand, but rhythms, vibrations meant to reassure. She paused, almost as if reading his intent. Then, in a small but significant gesture, she allowed him to adjust the sensors near her without withdrawing. The research team watched from the observation deck, their eyes wide with amazement. Never before had a human come this close to a life form so dangerous and survived. The realization filled the room with both awe and hope. Lena whispered, "This could change everything, not just for science, but for humanity." But they had a unique advantage: curiosity, courage, and the ability to think beyond the obvious. Nissa was a test of those qualities, and for the first time, humans were proving themselves capable of meeting it. Suddenly, the monitors on the wall flickered, catching everyone's attention. Energy spikes surged across the containment field. Nissa's pulse began to increase slightly and her movements grew agitated. The alarms were silent, not because the system failed, but because Elias had ordered them turned off temporarily. He did not want to scare her. "Something's wrong," Lena said, her voice tight. "Her readings are spiking. Could be a reaction to the recalibration." His eyes met hers, searching for a clue. Nissa's gaze was alert, focused on the entrance to the chamber. A small shadow moved across the doorway, unnoticed by the others. Before anyone could react, a low rumble shook the floor. Elias stepped in front of Nissa instinctively, shielding her from whatever was coming. Outside the chamber, heavy machinery vibrated as the colony's energy grid adjusted to the planetary conditions. Arcturus IX's storms were unpredictable, and today was no exception. Nissa's eyes widened, and for the first time, she reacted instinctively, moving her hand toward the protective wall of the chamber. A small arc of energy flared, brushing against the reinforced glass. Elias felt the hum through his suit, a reminder that danger was always present. Yet she did not strike at him. Instead, she turned toward the disturbance, trying to understand it. Lena leaned closer to the monitors. "It's not just the storm," she said. "Sensors detect movement outside the colony perimeter. Something's approaching." The planet had been quiet in terms of wildlife, at least near the colony. Nothing of this size or energy signature had been recorded. Yet there it was, moving steadily toward them, and Nissa's reaction suggested she recognized it, or at least sensed it as a threat. "We need to prepare," Elias said, his voice calm but firm. "But we won't react with weapons." Any sudden aggression could trigger her pulse. Every step required precision, every gesture meant to reassure rather than dominate. Outside the observation window, the movement grew clearer. A large creature emerged from the forest, unlike any recorded species. It had a semi-transparent body, shifting colors like liquid light, and it moved with purpose. Its energy signature was strong but not lethal, yet its size and power posed a serious risk to the colony. Elias guided Nissa toward a reinforced corner of the chamber, keeping her calm as the creature's energy waves pulsed across the room. She mirrored his steadiness, her own pulses diminishing slightly. He realized that her responses were not just instinctive, they were intelligent. She was learning, reacting to human behavior and adjusting herself accordingly. The creature paused outside the chamber, its energy rippling through the barriers. For a moment, it seemed to study the humans and Nissa together. Then, without warning, it changed direction, moving closer to the colony's outer perimeter rather than the chamber itself. Elias exhaled slowly. "It's observing us," he said, "trying to understand, like we're trying to understand it." Lena adjusted the containment field, adding a minor energy buffer to protect Nissa from external fluctuations. "It's stable again," she reported. "For now." He realized that humans had something unique, the ability to act with intent, to communicate calm without words, and to take calculated risks for the sake of others. Hours passed, and the storm outside subsided. The energy readings returned to normal, and the mysterious creature had retreated into the distance. The team allowed themselves a brief moment of relief. Nissa moved closer to Elias again, and for the first time she extended her hand fully, almost touching his shoulder. The suit hummed faintly as it absorbed her energy, and Elias felt a surge of relief. He smiled under the visor, realizing the significance of this gesture. She was beginning to trust humans, not just tolerate them, but actively interact with them. The research team gathered around the observation deck, reviewing the data and marveling at the breakthrough. "She's learning from us," Lena said, "not just reacting. She understands intentions." Every day we get closer to understanding. Every day we prove that humanity can face the unknown without relying solely on force. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with the understanding that had begun to grow. Elias reflected on what had happened over the past day. Humanity had faced a lethal challenge and had responded not with aggression, but with empathy, intelligence, and courage. They had learned to communicate across species boundaries, to approach danger with calculated risk, and to earn trust where others had only seen threat. The colony was still full of mysteries. Arcturus IX was not a safe or easy place, and the stormy planet held dangers they had not yet discovered. Yet Elias felt a spark of hope. If humans could achieve this with Nissa, if they could reach across a gulf of unknown danger and form a bond with a being capable of instant death, then they could face whatever the planet or the universe threw at them. Nissa tilted her head, watching the twin moons rise above the horizon. Elias watched her, understanding that trust was fragile but powerful. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges, unexpected events, and threats they could not yet foresee. But for now, humanity had taken its first true step into something extraordinary. And in that moment, Elias Kane realized that the true strength of humanity was not in weapons, not in numbers, but in the courage to reach out, the intelligence to understand, and the willingness to risk everything to connect. Tomorrow would bring new tests. The unknown was never far away. But tonight, humans and Nissa had shared a quiet victory, one of trust, courage, and understanding. And it was a victory that no one could ever take away. The dawn on Arcturus IX arrived with a soft glow, painting the alien forests in gentle shades of green and silver. The colony was alive with activity again, but today felt different. There was a sense of tension that the scientists and crew could feel deep in their bones, even as they carried out their routines. Nissa had been calmer in recent hours, but her energy was unpredictable, and the earlier encounter with the mysterious creature reminded everyone that the planet still held many unknowns. Elias Kane moved through the corridors toward the containment chamber, his steps quiet but deliberate. He was not alone this time. A small team of specialists followed him, engineers, biologists, and security personnel. Each had been briefed extensively on the new protocols for interacting with Nissa. While she had shown trust, no one underestimated the danger. Even a fraction of her bioelectric energy could be fatal if mishandled. Nissa was already waiting in the chamber, her silver eyes fixed on him. She stood motionless as if studying him, measuring whether his actions would match his intentions. Elias stopped a few meters away, raising his gloved hand slowly. The suit hummed faintly, a barrier between them that allowed him to approach without fear of immediate injury. He spoke softly, not words she could understand, but tones that conveyed calm and reassurance. Nissa responded by stepping closer, a gesture that had once been impossible. She tilted her head, observing his movements, and allowed him to approach within a safe distance of her. Elias could feel the faint hum of her energy through the suit. It was a living presence, subtle yet undeniable, a reminder of both danger and potential. "Today we'll test her understanding of us," Elias said quietly, addressing the team behind him. "Not just observation, interaction, carefully, step by step." Each movement required patience and precision. A sudden spike in her energy could have destroyed the equipment, or worse, harmed someone. Nissa hesitated at first, her body tense, but Elias stayed steady. Slowly, she followed his instructions, placing her hand near a small energy emitter. The sensors recorded a minimal fluctuation, showing that she was learning to control her pulse. Elias nodded, a quiet smile on his face. "Good," he said, "very good." This was more than science. It was an evolving partnership. As the morning progressed, Elias led Nissa to a new set of exercises. They involved manipulating objects in the chamber, using her abilities in controlled ways to complete tasks. It was delicate work. A wrong move could have released a pulse strong enough to fry the equipment or endanger the humans nearby. Yet she adapted quickly, responding to the tone of his voice and the steadiness of his hands. For the first time, Elias felt a profound connection. It was not emotional in the human sense, but it was understanding. Nissa recognized him as someone who respected her, someone who would not harm her. And Elias realized that humans had a unique advantage over other species. They could convey intent, empathy, and patience in ways that transcended language. Outside, the skies began to darken. A storm was approaching, the kind that Arcturus IX was known for. The wind whipped across the domes, carrying streaks of luminescent dust from the forests below. The colony's systems began to compensate, but the energy fluctuations in the chamber increased slightly. Nissa's pulse became uneven, a reflection of her reaction to the approaching storm. Elias moved closer, keeping his hands ready to guide her. "Steady," he said calmly. "We're here. You're safe." Her movements were deliberate now, measured, controlled. Elias could feel the faint vibrations through his suit, each one a reminder of her power. Yet she allowed him to maintain the lead, showing trust that was becoming stronger with each passing hour. Suddenly, a warning alarm blared. Outside the chamber, a massive energy surge traveled through the colony's power grid. The lights flickered, the floor vibrated, and the containment field wavered. Nissa's reaction was instantaneous. She stepped back, her pulse intensifying. Elias felt the hum through his suit, stronger this time, but he held his ground. "Hold her steady," he instructed the team. "Do not panic. Remember what we practiced." Hours passed as the storm raged outside, but inside the chamber, a new rhythm developed. Nissa moved with Elias, her responses becoming more refined, her energy pulses more controlled. The team monitored every reading, every reaction, documenting the unprecedented progress. By evening, the storm had passed. The colony system stabilized, and the containment field returned to normal. Nissa sat calmly in her corner of the chamber, her pulse dormant, yet alert. Elias removed his helmet, allowing himself a moment to breathe. "You did well today," he said softly. "Better than anyone could have imagined." Elias realized that humans were not just observing life. They were shaping it, guiding it, and learning from it in return. As the team began to analyze the data, a new concern arose. Lena's voice was tight with urgency. "Elias, the energy readings, there's a pattern. Nissa's control is improving, but she's also reacting to something we haven't seen before, something external." "Explain." Someone or something was approaching. He looked at Nissa, noting her heightened alertness. Her trust in him had allowed for calm, but now instinct kicked in. "We need to prepare," Elias said firmly. But we'll do it without panic, without aggression. Nissa needs to remain calm. Elias remained with Nissa, guiding her through the process, showing her that humans could act decisively yet safely. She mirrored his confidence, responding with precise movements and controlled pulses. Night fell, and the stars glimmered beyond the dome. Elias reflected on the day's events. Humanity had faced danger, uncertainty, and a being of immense power, and yet they had persevered. They had not relied solely on strength or weapons. They had relied on understanding, on intellect, on empathy. Nissa moved closer to him, her energy pulse gentle, almost reassuring. Elias smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. They had survived the storm, maintained control, and deepened a bond that few could have imagined possible. But the approaching signals outside reminded him that this was only the beginning. Arcturus IX was a world of surprises, of challenges that would test every aspect of human ingenuity. Yet he felt confident. If humans could achieve this with Nissa, if they could navigate danger and build trust with a being capable of instant death, then there was no challenge too great for them to face. For the first time, Elias truly understood the meaning of human resilience. It was not in weapons or numbers. It was in the courage to act when others hesitated, the intelligence to find solutions where none seemed possible, and the willingness to risk everything for understanding and connection. Nissa tilted her head toward the stars, and Elias followed her gaze. Tomorrow would bring new tests, new mysteries, and perhaps new dangers. But tonight, they had achieved something extraordinary. Humans had proven that with patience, courage, and empathy, even the most lethal and mysterious life form could become an ally. And in that realization, Elias Kane saw the future of humanity, bold, daring, and capable of reaching beyond the impossible. The night on Arcturus IX was quiet, but the calm was deceptive. Outside the colony's protective dome, shadows moved with intent. The strange energy patterns detected earlier had intensified, rippling across the forest like liquid light. Elias Kane stood on the observation deck, watching the readings flicker on the monitors. He felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. The colony, Nissa, and the entire research team relied on him to make the right decisions. Nissa sat in her corner of the containment chamber, her silver eyes reflecting the dim light. Her pulse remained steady, but Elias could sense her alertness. She was aware of the changes outside, her instincts detecting danger before the humans could fully understand it. He approached her slowly, extending a gloved hand. She stepped closer, brushing against his suit in a gesture of trust that reassured him. "We need to be ready for anything," Elias said softly, speaking more to himself than to her. "And we will, together." From the forest emerged a group of alien beings, tall and angular, with translucent skin that shimmered like liquid metal. Their movements were deliberate and coordinated, as if they had been observing the colony for some time. Their intent was clear. They sought to capture Nissa. The research team scrambled. Security personnel moved to reinforce the outer barriers, engineers recalibrated energy shields, and scientists hurriedly analyzed the alien energy signatures. Elias stayed with Nissa, keeping her calm. Her pulse rose slightly as the aliens approached, and he placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Stay with me," he murmured. "We can do this." Elias realized immediately that conventional weapons would be ineffective. Not only could they harm Nissa, but the aliens themselves seemed resistant to standard attacks. He turned to the team. "We cannot fight them with force," he said firmly. "We need to think smarter, non-lethal measures only. Create traps that guide them away, manipulate the terrain, and use energy fields to contain them." Every action had to be precise, every plan executed without alarming Nissa or triggering her pulse. The aliens advanced, their metallic forms glinting under the moonlight. Nissa's body tensed, but Elias held her gently, guiding her through the chamber as they moved to a reinforced observation point. Her pulse flickered with energy, a reminder of the danger she could unleash if startled. Elias took a deep breath. Nissa, watch and follow my lead. We will show them that humans are not to be underestimated, not through force, but through strategy and intelligence. Another tried to force a path through the energy barrier, only to be redirected back by a controlled pulse from the colony's systems. Elias observed each move, adjusting strategies in real time, guiding Nissa to help where she could. Together, they created a rhythm, a synchronized defense that relied not on brute strength but on coordination, intelligence, and trust. Nissa extended her hand toward one of the barriers, and Elias helped her channel a controlled pulse to reinforce the shield. It was delicate work. Her energy was formidable, but guided carefully, it became a tool rather than a weapon. The aliens faltered, surprised by the humans' resourcefulness. They had expected fear, perhaps even panic, but what they encountered was a calculated defense that combined human ingenuity with Nissa's unique abilities. Hours passed as the standoff continued. The aliens probed, tested, and adjusted their movements, but the humans adapted faster. Each action was met with a countermeasure that relied on thinking rather than violence. Elias moved among the team, giving instructions, supporting Nissa, and ensuring that every plan was executed precisely. As dawn approached, the aliens hesitated. They had underestimated the humans' capability to strategize under pressure. Elias saw an opening. Using Nissa's controlled pulse and the colony's energy fields, he guided the aliens toward a corridor of holographic decoys and immobilizers. They moved as intended, and one by one, the invaders were contained without a single lethal blow. The team held their breath as the final alien was restrained. Silence filled the colony. For a moment, it was impossible to believe that such a dangerous confrontation had ended without loss of life. Nissa remained calm, her pulse steady, and Elias felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humanity had not only survived, they had triumphed through intelligence, courage, and cooperation. Lena approached, her eyes wide with amazement. "I can't believe it. You didn't just protect Nissa, you protected all of us and handled a threat that could have destroyed the colony, and without hurting anyone." It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. She had learned to rely on humans as partners, not threats. Elias realized that this bond was more powerful than any weapon. Humans had achieved what other species had failed to do. They had formed an alliance based on trust, intelligence, and empathy. The aftermath of the encounter was a flurry of activity. Engineers repaired minor damages, scientists recorded detailed analyses of the aliens' behavior, and security personnel strengthened the perimeter. Yet through it all, Elias and Nissa remained connected. He understood that the future of the colony, and perhaps humanity's understanding of life on Arcturus IX, depended on this fragile but growing partnership. Later, as the sun rose fully over the alien forests, Elias stood alone with Nissa in the chamber. The planet was calm now, but he knew that challenges would continue to arise. New species, unforeseen dangers, and the mysteries of Arcturus IX awaited, yet he felt confident. Humans had proven that courage and intellect combined with empathy and trust could overcome even the most formidable obstacles. Nissa tilted her head, observing him. Elias reached out, allowing her to place her hand lightly on his shoulder. The exosuit hummed softly, absorbing the energy from her touch. It was a controlled interaction, a symbol of the bond they had forged under extraordinary circumstances. "This is only the beginning," he said quietly. "We've faced danger and survived. We've learned to work together, but there's more out there, and we'll face it together." She was not just a creature of immense power. She was a partner, a being capable of learning, adapting, and cooperating. Humanity had earned her trust, and in doing so, had taken a vital step toward mastering the challenges of this alien world. The colony slowly resumed its routines, but the memory of the night's events lingered. Every scientist, engineer, and security officer carried with them the knowledge that humans could overcome seemingly impossible threats without resorting to violence. They had relied on intelligence, creativity, and cooperation, the very traits that defined humanity. As Elias left the chamber and returned to the observation deck, he looked out at the forests beyond the dome. The planet was alive, full of dangers and mysteries yet to be discovered. But humanity had shown that it could meet those challenges head-on, guided by courage and a willingness to understand. Nissa remained in the chamber, watching the humans as they moved about. She had learned that their intentions could be trusted, that their actions could protect rather than harm. And Elias knew that this was the true victory, not the containment of a threat, but the forging of a bond that could withstand any challenge. In that quiet moment, Elias Kane realized something profound. The greatest strength of humanity was not in weapons or technology alone. It was in their ability to think, to empathize, to act with courage and intelligence in the face of danger. They had faced a threat no one else could manage and had emerged victorious, not through force, but through heart and mind. And as the colony settled into the calm of the early morning, Elias knew that the story of humans and Nissa was only beginning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new mysteries, and perhaps new threats. But tonight, they had achieved something extraordinary. Humanity had proven that even in the face of lethal danger, intelligence, courage, and empathy could create outcomes no one had thought possible. And that was a lesson that no alien force could ever ignore. The morning on Arcturus IX was brighter than usual, the twin suns casting a soft golden glow over the colony. The night had been long, filled with tension, strategy, and careful observation, but humanity had survived. The colony was intact, Nissa was calm, and the aliens that had threatened them had retreated. Yet the day ahead promised new challenges, ones that would test humans and Nissa together like never before. Elias Kane stood at the edge of the observation deck, watching Nissa move through the containment chamber. Her movements were fluid, confident, and deliberate. She no longer flinched at his approach. Instead, she mirrored his steadiness, showing the understanding and trust that had grown over days of careful interaction. Elias felt a deep respect for her intelligence. Nissa was no ordinary life form. She was a being capable of learning, adapting, and forming connections that transcended species. "Today we take the next step," Elias said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "We've survived storms, we've faced intruders, and we've learned to work together. Now we see how far that can go." Nissa followed Elias to the chamber's exit, her movements precise and deliberate. The exosuit hummed faintly, absorbing any stray energy from her pulse. She seemed to anticipate his actions, adjusting her pace and posture in response. The connection between them had grown stronger than Elias had expected. It was no longer just trust, it was teamwork, a bond forged through shared danger and careful guidance. Outside, the forest of Arcturus IX stretched endlessly. Bioluminescent plants glowed faintly, casting an ethereal light across the ground. Shadows moved in the distance, hinting at unknown life forms, and the air was thick with energy. The team followed closely, relying on Nissa's instincts as well as their own instruments. Every step was calculated, every movement deliberate. Elias watched Nissa carefully. She paused frequently, sensing changes in the environment that humans could not detect. A faint ripple in the air, a subtle vibration in the ground. These signs would have gone unnoticed if not for her guidance. Elias realized that humans had something unique in this partnership. They could combine Nissa's innate abilities with their intelligence and creativity to face challenges that neither could tackle alone. As they moved deeper into the forest, a low hum began to resonate through the ground. The team froze. Nissa's silver eyes sharpened, her body tensing as her energy pulses increased slightly. Elias placed a steadying hand on her arm. "We're here with you," he said softly. "Stay calm, follow my lead." Elias recognized it immediately as the command hub of the aliens who had threatened the colony days before. They had returned, not for destruction, but for strategic observation. "Everyone stay alert," Elias instructed. We do not know what they intend. Nissa, I need you to help us navigate this. Her pulse flared lightly, enough to interact with the energy barriers around the hub without causing harm. Elias and the team followed her movements, learning how to interpret her subtle cues. Every step she guided them through was a lesson in strategy, intuition, and calm under pressure. The aliens inside the structure had sensors that detected movement, but the humans and Nissa moved as one. They were deliberate, coordinated, and careful, exploiting the weaknesses in the hub's design without triggering alarms. Elias realized that this was a perfect example of human adaptability. They could learn, analyze, and apply knowledge in real time, using intelligence rather than force to achieve success. As they reached the center of the structure, the team discovered a control console. Elias gestured toward it. We can learn their technology without attacking them, carefully, step by step. The team watched in amazement as humans and Nissa collaborated seamlessly, combining intuition, skill, and trust. Hours passed as they collected data, analyzed patterns, and mapped the structure. The aliens remained unaware of the intruder's presence, confused by the coordinated actions that blended human intelligence with Nissa's unique abilities. Elias realized that the victory was not just in survival, it was in proving that humans could achieve what brute force alone could never accomplish. Suddenly, a warning signal blared from the colony. A storm was forming, stronger than any previously recorded. Energy fluctuations threatened both the colony and the team outside. Elias assessed the situation quickly. Retreat was necessary, but it had to be executed with precision. Nissa would play a critical role in guiding them back safely. Follow her lead, Elias instructed. She knows the path. It was a delicate balance, but their trust in each other allowed them to navigate the storm successfully. As they approached the colony dome, Elias felt a surge of pride. Humans had faced lethal danger, navigated unknown terrain, and worked alongside a being of immense power, all without loss of life. They had relied on courage, intelligence, and empathy rather than aggression, proving that humanity's greatest strength lay in their ability to think, adapt, and cooperate. Inside the dome, the team debriefed, analyzing the collected data and reviewing the day's events. Nissa sat calmly nearby, her silver eyes reflecting the admiration and gratitude she seemed to feel for the humans. Elias approached her, extending a hand. She responded with a gentle touch, a symbol of trust and partnership that had grown stronger with every challenge they faced together. Lena Morales spoke softly, her voice filled with awe. I never imagined humans could achieve this. You didn't just survive, you learned, adapted, and thrived. You've earned Nissa's trust, and together, you've achieved what no one else could. The colony hummed with quiet activity, a symbol of human resilience and determination. Nissa remained a sentinel of trust, a living example of what could be achieved when species bridged gaps with understanding rather than fear. Elias stood at the observation deck, watching the stars emerge one by one. The universe was vast, full of dangers and mysteries, but humanity had proven that they could face them with wisdom and courage. Nissa had taught them much, and they had taught her the meaning of partnership, trust, and cooperation. In that moment, Elias understood the true significance of their journey. Humans had survived, yes, but more importantly, they had thrived by using their unique abilities, creativity, empathy, intelligence, and courage. They had faced the unknown, risked everything, and emerged victorious not through violence, but through understanding and cooperation. Nissa moved beside him, her presence calm yet alert. Elias reached out, allowing her to place her hand on his shoulder. The exosuit hummed softly as it absorbed her energy, a final confirmation of the bond they had forged. Together, they had faced danger, explored the unknown, and created a path forward that was uniquely human. As night fully fell over Arcturus IX, Elias Kane reflected on the journey. There would be new challenges, new discoveries, and new threats. But humanity had proven something profound. That courage guided by intelligence, Empathy and collaboration could overcome any obstacle. That was the essence of what it meant to be human. And in the quiet of the colony, under the twin moons of a distant planet, humanity's triumph shone brighter than any weapon, stronger than any barrier, and more enduring than any danger. They had faced the impossible and turned it into opportunity. They had earned Nissa's trust, secured their colony, and proved that even in the vast unknown, human ingenuity and courage could light the way. Elias turned to the team, seeing pride and determination in their eyes. Together with Nissa, they had achieved the extraordinary. And as they looked out at the alien world, one truth was clear. Humanity would survive, thrive, and leave its mark on the stars, not through force, but through heart, mind, and indomitable spirit. The future awaited, vast and full of challenges, but humans had shown that they were ready. And with Nissa by their side, they would face it boldly, courageously, and triumphantly. The universe had taken notice. Humanity had arrived.